Alright guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another Satisfactory video. If you've followed along for a while, you'll know that I've covered Tier 1 and Tier 2 iron production, and now it's the copper's turn. Although I'll be doing things slightly differently this time around. When I made the iron node guide, I got a fantastic comment from Jessless over on Reddit saying that if folk were only at Tier 1, they most likely wouldn't have Mark II conveyor belts. I tend to manually produce everything needed to unlock that milestone as it just makes everything easier, but this time I'll be taking that into account and I'll start off with only Tier 1 items, and then I'll not only show you what else you can make with the Tier 2 upgrade production, but also how to integrate it into your existing Tier 1 production line. So let's get going. Alright, before we get to the building, why don't we just get the math bit for Tier 1 production out of the way as quickly as we can. As always, we'll be using a pure copper node for this, but you can use any combination of nodes merged together to add up to the Mark I miner's output of 120 ore per minute, and that'll be key for this guide. So starting for the ore, we need to smelt it into copper ingots. Since we're only dealing with 60 ore per minute right now, that means we'll need 2 smelters to process all of the available ore, because 60 divided by 30 equals 2. Next, we need to turn that into wire. If we take the 30 ore per minute from the first smelter, how many assemblers will we need? Well, divide 30 by 15 equals 2, so we need 2 assemblers that will make up the wire production line. And we'll just merge those outputs together and run that into a storage container for now. We can also make cable, but to make cable we first need to make more wire. So we know from a moment ago that we need 2 assemblers making wire and then merging the outputs together. So the first part of the math's already been done for us. All we need to do is to run that output belt into another assembler and set it to make cable. And we'll also feed that into a separate storage container for now as well. So for all the Tier 1 items, we need 2 smelters, 5 assemblers, 3 splitters, and 2 mergers. Alright, so we'll start with our miner. With belts, I've already put this in place to go to a splitter. This will go off to our 2 smelters. Just get them put in place. So this one will be for the wire production line, and that one will be for the cable production line. And we'll get the belts connected up. Now we want to split each production line off because we need our 2 assemblers, or constructors, sorry. So these will produce our wire. Again, we'll get that belted up with the right kind of belt. And obviously use our rule of 2 to make nice clean bends, otherwise we'll end up with belts going all over the place. And then what we do is we'll drop a merger down to merge them together. Obviously making sure that the output goes the right direction. And then belt that in. And then we'll run that to the storage container. Now we'll just get everything configured after power. Get constructors put in and the smelters. Missed the belt. So set the smelter to copper ingots, and then we'll set our 2 constructors to wire. And that'll give us 30 wire per minute. Now onto the cable assembly. We're basically just copying the existing layout, so we'll just duplicate that. Get that all set up to make wire. merge those outputs together, and that'll give us our input feed for the next constructor, which we'll use for making the wire into cable. Set the initial 2 constructors to wire. We'll change this one to cable. That'll give us 30 cable per minute. Then we'll run that into the storage container. And we'll get everything powered up. And that is the tier 1 side of things complete. Once we set this smelter to copper ingots. So you'll see on the left with the old production line, the wire, that's running nice and smooth, running at 60 copper wire per minute. With ore going into the smelter on the cable production line, ingots coming out, then that's getting made into wire, and then cable should come out this constructor, there we are, and that'll go into the storage container for that line. Now we'll move on to the tier 2 item production, and then we'll also show you how to tie in with this existing line. Okay, moving on to the tier 2 production. Now, because we've only got 60 ore per minute left, we still need the same 2 smelters as previously, which is fairly straightforward, so I've just duplicated that just now, but put it into a splitter. Now, the focus is going to be on copper sheets, so we need 2 constructors for that, and then the overflow we'll put into wire and cable, because right now we've got 60 cable per minute but only a fraction of that with cable, so we want to boost the cable production with the overflow. So we use 3 constructors for that. We'll just get them all belted in. There we go, we get the first 2 set up, so we'll be doing 20 copper sheets per minute, and we'll be using 40 ore per minute, so the last 20, or ingots per minute, sorry, so the last 20 ingots per minute can go into cable, ultimately. So what we do is we'll then add in another constructor, obviously like last time, just to make some wire. Now with this wall I divided it because I'm building it alongside the tier 1 production lines, but that'll get removed shortly. We'll merge the copper sheet output and then get that belted in and run it into a storage container. As you see, I need to go around the wall to have a look. Get the storage container using the picker. That's the one from the wire line. So we get the storage container placed, and then that'll be the copper sheet line belted in after that. Right, so now what we need to do is join in this with the existing cable, obviously after power and configuration and so on. So that's all ready to go. So now if we take the section of foundations out that we've put in just to separate the 2, you can build on top of the other line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a merger onto that existing belt. Which you can just snap it to it, drop it on, and then you just run a belt from that back to the output of the cable constructor. And that's it joined in, so once everything goes out of that, it'll then boost the output for cable. Now to get the ore in, what we need to do is remove this stack of foundations and then remove that part of the belt. Place our splitter because we're going to divide it by 2, obviously. Line up our inputs and outputs. I'm just going to change this belt, or replace it, just so that way it's definitely connected to the splitter. We'll loose belt that in. Let's just see, no, that doesn't look that great, so we'll go out the side. Not as good, but it's better than the other one. So there you can see the ore coming through, there's a gap in between them. That straight away tells me, oh, I haven't updated my belt from the conveyor, the miner to the splitter to a Mark II belt. That then doubles the output, and there you can see it's all going through nicely on both belts. It's all going full, so they're both getting 60 ore per minute, which is the limit obviously of the Mark I belt. Now we can just remove the wall while that ore is feeding through. The production line gets started. Again, this is just holding control while looking at things, and it'll select them. And there we have it. Very shortly we'll have cable and copper sheets coming through. You can see the ingots are starting to make their way through. The wire constructor started. There's one of the copper sheets constructor started, and the cable constructor is now started. There we are, cable. So that'll just all merge into the one line, and that'll boost that slightly. And then we have our copper sheets coming out too. And there you have it. That's how to do your tier 1 copper production lines, your tier 2 copper production lines, and how to tie them in together as well. And with that, that's the end of another video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've learned something. If you have, please like, comment, subscribe. If you have anything you want to ask, please just comment down below and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you have any other ideas or you disagree with what I've done, also comment. It's always healthy. I don't mind discussing my layouts and everything with anybody. But until then, I hope you all take care, and I'll see you in the next one.